pick and roll with it. Make a pick and roll with it. Betting weekly. Fast break from coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown.
Welcome into the latest edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break as we wrap up the work week. It's a brand new show here on the Bet Rivers Network under the Betting Weekly umbrella. 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, talking round ball, basketball, all show, and that includes the WNBA where we've been red hot. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside Wes Reynolds. Gave out a nice winner in the W the other night. And Wes, you're sporting your Indiana Pacers gear as always.
Yeah, well, maybe it's going to be my lucky gear. It certainly worked for game number one with that comeback. Wasn't always a sure thing until the very end when the clock hit quadruple zeros. But going to do that, and if it doesn't work tonight, then we're back to normal attire.
All right. Well, you are a proud Indiana native and an IU grad, so you should be thriving in the spotlight with these Indiana Pacers, who are now favored in the Eastern Conference Finals after stealing Game 1 with the heroic comeback and drama that this Pacers team has embodied the last couple rounds in the playoffs. And before we get into dissecting Game 2, I just want to remind you that Bet Rivers is boosting the bets on Knicks-Pacers Game 2. Tyrese Halliburton to combine for at least 16 points and assists in the first half at plus 150, and Karl Anthony Towns to combine for at least 18 points and rebounds in the first half, also boosted to plus 150. Just head to the House Specials tab on the Bet Rivers app to check out the latest selection of daily specials. So I want to start macro here, Wes. Given how Game 1 ended, particularly the end of regulation, what emotional response do you expect from each team here?
Well, it's no surprise. I think that the Knicks, you're getting a little bit of a tax because it's like, okay, there's the I guess thought out there that they gave the game away, and I don't know that they did. They made a couple mistakes. I think the Pacers kind of took it and maybe aren't getting credit for that. And Nesmith made a bunch of shots and obviously got him back in the game, and sometimes that just happens, and it's what happened in game number one. So I would think you're going to get a big effort from the Knicks, but I think you're going to get a big effort from the Pacers too. The whole psychological thing that you asked about is like, do the Knicks feel like they've blown it already, right? That, okay, we had these guys beat. We had them down 16 with like 6.5 minutes to go. We should have closed this out. We let them off the hook. And do they come out, fired up and ready to go? Or does a little bit of doubt creep in where it's like, okay, if something doesn't go their way right away in the first quarter and the Pacers get off to that hot start like they did in game number one, do they kind of think, oh, man, here we go again? But I don't foresee that. I think that the tax is in the number in terms of the side, and knowing all the trends. The teams off a loss, game two when they're home favorites, like about 60% against the spread. But I think it's baked into the number. So 6 is probably a fair number, but you are paying the tax, I think, if you like the Knicks on the zigzag, which has clearly worked this playoffs.
Oh, that was my next question, is how are you playing the side? Because there is a tax, and we know the zigzag theory. I think it's a little too rich. For me, I would lean Pacers, but I don't want to step in front of that because the zigzag theory is just so powerful. So I'm passing on the side. I'm not playing it because I agree with you. I do expect a big effort from the Pacers, and that's what I'm banking on. So you're right. Like everyone's sort of casually thinking the Knicks were up 14, 251 to go. Oh, it's going to be the same thing. No, it doesn't work like that. They look, the last series, Boston squandered an opportunity and was unable to figure that out the rest of the series. Nuggets, Thunder, same thing happened in game one. The Thunder did recover, but it took 7 games. So I wouldn't count out the Pacers necessarily in this game too, particularly because they just pulled off games 1 and 2 in Cleveland. So this is not a team that's going to mail it in by any means. So I'm expecting a big effort from both teams. I don't have an opinion on the side. What about the total? It was an absolute shootout. all game. There's been some money on the under here that has moved it from 227.5 to 224.5. What's your read here?
Yeah, and I think the under money is right. I'm not going to play it obviously at the current number because I think we missed the apex. Because what did it open? I think right after game one, like 225.5, 226. It got as high as 228 in some markets and in some shops, and then all of a sudden you saw an avalanche of money come to the under. So I think maybe that was a little bit of a setup where it's like, okay, we're seeing what we see last. Go ahead and get to that over, and then all of a sudden, come back on the under. And I think that that's exactly what happened here. The scoring started off so hot that it put you kind of behind the eight ball if you bet the under in game number one, and then in the middle, it kind of slowed down a little bit, and we've seen that a little bit with some of these totals, especially in a lot of these Pacer games. We have these really super high scoring first quarters, and then all of a sudden you get to the meat of the game, and then it's played normal, despite the fact that the Pacers play at such a quick tempo. So I think it's if you got it at the apex, good on you at the under 227.5, 228. But at this point, it's a stay away from me unless you get involved in some kind of in-game situation, and that might be the way to go if you like the under, because these first quarters have been absolutely high scoring for the Pacers, really all playoffs.
So I'm okay if the market moves from 227.5 to 224.5, and I still like it at 224.5. I'm okay playing it. Yeah, so be it. You missed the best number, but you have to still like it at 224.5. You can't just be chasing steam. That's silly. But if you still like it at 224.5, I'm okay with it. It's not an ideal bet, maybe less units, whatever. But I don't like the under here at 224.5. I lean over. I think the way this Pacers team operates, you don't need it to fly over the total. So yes, they may not start out hitting 10 of 10 or whatever it was in game one, but I think the Pacers are going to try to push pace. I think Knicks might want to slow it down because they don't want to get into a shootout. They don't have the depth. But I also think Indiana sort of runs through the tape at the end of games. We saw that quick twos, things like that. I would go over or pass for me in this one.
So it could be correlated too, for what you said in terms of the Knicks, because the Knicks did try to run with the Pacers, and it worked for a while, but it's not going to work over the course of 48 minutes. I don't think that that's the best recipe for success for the Knicks in this series. So could be correlated. If you like the Knicks on the side, you're probably going to be more inclined to play the under. If you like the Pacers, you're going to be more inclined to play the over. So it's a stay away for me at the current number.
All right, let's get into some props. Obviously, it was a crazy game one, so a lot of props cashed on the over, including Aaron Nesmith over 3-pointers, 8 of 9 from downtown. So we just saw him take 9 attempts. I think that's the bigger one to focus on, the 9 attempts, and obviously he was the hot hand once the fourth quarter arrived for 2+ made threes, so over 1.5. He's plus 138. Any interest here on Nesmith, given how game one unfolded?
Not really, to be honest with you. I would actually lean to the under here. Now you got to play substantial juice to play under 2 threes, basically. But most of the Neesmith threes occurred in the fourth quarter. I think he might have had 10 points at that point going to the and his over was like 12.5 for his points. So he was like right there 50-50. But if you recall, most of the threes that he hit in the fourth quarter were those dribble handoffs, those DHOs, and they got Mitchell Robinson in action. I think because Mitchell Robinson, I think, played more fourth quarter minutes than we thought, because Tibbs thought, okay, we need the rebounding. So they put Mitchell Robinson in there, and they got him in those dribble handoff actions. So that makes me wonder if we are going to see Robinson in the floor as much late in the fourth quarter, because the Pacers are going to see him and they're going to try to attack him a little bit. And then on the other hand, with Nesmith, he's also one of the Pacers' best defenders, arguably is their best defender, because he's going to get most of the assignment on Jalen Brunson throughout the entire game, because they're not going to use Tyrese on him very much. So it'll probably be like a switch off maybe with Nesmith, a little bit of Nemhard, and perhaps a little bit of Ben Matherin off the bench. But it's going to be Nesmith mainly. He's physical, so he's going to foul a lot. He's had 4 or more fouls in 8 of the 11 playoff games that the Pacers have played so far. So there is a possibility that you get him in foul trouble, which would hurt your proposition if you're betting the over threes here. And then plus it's a little bit of, okay, what did we see last? We saw Aaron Nesmith go absolutely bonkers in the fourth quarter. So this could be, regression to the mean. So I would lean to the under. It's a pretty heavy price, though. You got to pay for it.
And I'm glad the graphic clarified. So it's over 2.5 made threes is plus 145. So I misspoke a little bit
Okay.
ago. Yeah, it's a no play for me. I think it's main thing is the fourth quarter got out of hand. This was not a guy who was chucking consistently throughout the game, and that kind of production or even attempted production is something that's I think predictive for game two. So I would definitely shy away. However, Tyrese Halliburton had 12 3-point attempts, made 4 of them. He's minus 137 to go over 2.5. So for at least 3 made threes, minus 137. And he had 12 attempts in the last game. For me, it's over or pass. Just the way this Knicks defense is. I would look to the over here, but not an official play. How about you?
Yeah, same thing for me. I wouldn't be looking to the over here necessarily to bet. I would certainly lean that way because just the volume that he's going to get. But look, the Knicks, I do think want to take him away. They don't want to get him where he can just go wherever he wants on the floor. They want to force him, I think, to be a little bit more of a distributor, which he certainly can be and change the game in that way. But you even saw in the last possession where he kind of drove to the basket, was going for the tie, and then he kind of got trapped, lost the ball briefly, and then tried to do what he did against the Cavs, where he got the game winner in that series, where he goes behind the line, but he ended up having his toe on the line for the tie instead of the game winner. And of course, the lucky drop from the heavens that he got there. So would lean over, but probably one I'm going to stay away from.
We mentioned this is all correlated probably to the total, right? The total was bet down. We think it's going to be less scoring. Therefore, some of these props may not cash. Let's go to the Knicks side of things. I liked Karl Anthony Towns over 1.5 made threes. Went 4 of 8 from downtown. In fact, in the regular season meetings, he had 3, 2, and 2. Good percentage, all things considered. So Towns, his over-under is 1.5 made threes. And again, minus 157. I like the over here. I think the juice has come down from 182. I like over at 157. I think that's a buy for me.
Yeah, I could certainly see the over here because he got 39 minutes in game number one that included the overtime. So, it depends on how many fourth quarter minutes he's going to get. Because I mentioned earlier with the Mitchell Robinson thing, how much does Tom Thibodeau trust him when he got kind of cooked in those dribble handoffs? Not that Karl Towns is the best pick and roll defender by any stretch, but it's like, how can you trust Robinson? And then plus, you're giving away, you're basically playing 4-on-5 offense because Robinson is not going to be a threat to score other than putbacks and like loose ball garbage buckets. So I would lean to some Towns overs from threes would also lean to the over in terms of the points at 23.5. You're paying the tax, but if you look at what Cat has done against the Pacers this season, 21, 30, 40, and then 35 in game number one. So he's a tough cover, I think, for the Pacers. Where they have Turner, who's a good rim protector, but Towns is a very diverse offensive skill set, and I think that's paid dividends for these guys against the Pacers. But one other Towns prop that I may actually play is under 1.5 assists, and it's about even money. Might be like $1 minus $1.03 at Bet Rivers, but even money, kind of the market average. He got 2 very early in game number one, like the first 5 minutes of the game went over the total because it was the same number, 1.5 assists, but he had none the rest of the game. And keep in mind, he played 39 minutes. He is under in 10 of 13 so far with at this number, 1.5 assists. So that might be the way I would play Karl Towns because I think he gets the ball. He's looking to score. He's not looking for assist. And, so that's the way I would play it. Mainly points, but would lean over 3 with you.
That is a sweat. The first anything that's 1.5 and you're doing the under, that's a sweat because, like you said, you can get 2, but it's a fun sweat. And so I like that if you were to get involved there. So I'm on Towns official over 1.5 now that juice has come down to a much more bearable price. Any other props that interest you before we switch over to the Western Conference?
Yeah, maybe go back to the Robinson under rebounds. I'm trying to see. It's kind of a little bit all over the place right now in the market. I don't like the 6.5 though. I think that might be what's being offered at Bet Rivers right now. I don't like the 6.5. I like the 7.5 with a little bit more juice. I think the market average, I'm eyeballing it right now, is about $1.40. I think on Robinson because I just wonder how many minutes he's going to get. He got 20 minutes in game number one, including some vital minutes in the fourth quarter, where we've mentioned before in this program about how Aaron Nesmith was able to take advantage with those dribble handoff threes. So be leaning the under, because Robinson, I think, got 3 right away. And then all of a sudden, it kind of slowed down a little bit. They blocked him out a little bit better because he really killed on the offensive glass, is what really, I think, hurt the Pacers. And that's what hurt you more on a rebound prop than anything. 4 of his 8 rebounds, by the way, were offensive. So, this is not a guy, by the way, that they run a lot of stuff. They don't really run anything for him. So you don't have to worry about that. You got to box him out, whether it's Turner. Thomas Bryant, I thought, did a little bit of a better job in the second half in doing that. And then Thomas is kind of like the big burst of ball of energy. So he's going to run up and down the floor. And, that's a little bit tough for Mitchell Robinson when you got big guys that are running the floor like Turner and Thomas Bryant can. So that under, especially if you can get it at 7.5, would be interesting for the rebounds. No play at 6.5, though.
Right. Okay. So no play right now at Bet Rivers. Maybe if the market adjusts, maybe there's over. Who knows, right? You can get some alt lines sometimes on that. So, all right. So those are our official plays for game 2 tonight at the Garden. Game 3 is Sunday, and we will have a show on Monday, but we will have another game. So game 3 on Sunday before our next show. So you're going to have 2 Knicks-Pacers games between now and Monday. And so we can't preview game 3, but obviously check our socials, things like that. Let's switch gears to the Western Conference, which has essentially been all OKC, aside from the first half, maybe in game 1. Thunder convincingly in cover. Game 2, it goes over. 221 was your total points. Thunder win 118-103, covering that number. So they've covered both games. First game went under, second game went over. So for game 3, as the series shifts to Minnesota, OKC is road favorite here. So I wasn't sure what we were going to get, all things considered, because of the spot, but OKC is a 3-point favorite. It was 3.5. It's come down to 3. So it's 2.5 but current update at 3 right now on the Bet Rivers app. 218 is your total. Before we get into the point spread, just in general, massive situational spot, right? Desperation. Have you seen enough to trust NBA playoff history, or is the matchup just too lopsided in favor of OKC?
Yeah, I'm really conflicted, to be honest with you, of what I want to do here, because you mentioned about the situation. Very strong with the team up 2-0. By the way, if you look at the first half number for game number 3 on Saturday night, only a half, and juiced in a lot of places to the Timberwolves side, because we know, a lot of people like to play that first half, first quarter full game and split them up. And I think there's actually some pick 'em out there for the first half, or first quarter, I should say, for the Timberwolves. So, ordinarily 3-point line, you'd be getting like the Timberwolves +1 or +1.5 for the first half in a regular season. But in the playoffs, we know that because of the situation that, you're already getting a little bit cheated in the number, even if you like the Timberwolves there. And the situation is really strong, like you mentioned, Doug. But in watching these two games, I don't think the Timberwolves are physical enough. And I think that's how Denver stayed in the series with Oklahoma City and took it to 7 games, even though Oklahoma City, if you look at all the analytics and look at all the numbers, you felt like they laid over Denver. But yet when you watch them, it's like, man, they can't finish these guys. They're having a tough time getting away. And I think a lot of that was Denver's physicality. I don't think Minnesota has been physical enough. That's what surprised me a little bit in this series. Not that they're necessarily down 2-0, but the way that it's happened, that they just don't have the physicality. And it's like they hang in for a while, and then all of a sudden Oklahoma City just makes one little run and can keep them at bay, for the rest of the game. And you saw that especially in game number 2 last night. So that's where I'm really conflicted here, because the situation is strong, but the matchup says maybe the Thunder really do lay over these guys. And maybe that Denver, series going 7 kind of scared these guys, and they're coming out with a sense of urgency immediately to try to put this to bed.
That's my apprehension. It could be just a bad matchup, all things considered. And I did, before the playoffs, the regular season was winding down, maybe 2 weeks out. Sharp better, we were just chatting. A friend of mine asked me what if the Thunder don't come out of the West, who is it? And I said Minnesota. He goes, really? It's not the Lakers? Nah. I thought Minnesota would be ready for this challenge, and they clearly have not been. I've been very disappointed in their performance so far. But maybe, Wes, maybe it was a team that got I mean, look, that Lakers series, it was 2-1 and McDaniels fouled Luka. It could have easily been 2-2. But once they got past that, game 5 was easy. It was the Rudy Gobert game. And then they catch the Warriors hurt, right? So maybe this team just not as good as we thought. But Chris Finch is an excellent coach, and he's been getting his tail handed to him. So I've been disappointed with the T-Wolves. I think they respond, and I think the Thunder kind of go in their turtle shell. But you're right. Like, they haven't played with the edge that I thought they would. And it's been a disappointing sort of performance so far for Minnesota. I'm passing, but I do think it's it's T-Wolves or pass for me. I think 3's probably the right side. I would look at the first quarter. In fact, I'm going to do first quarter. I
Yeah.
am going to do first quarter. So I'm looking it up right now at Bet Rivers in terms of the quarters and halves. But that's what I want to do. I think that's going to be the edge. I think that's what you have to do. So there's the game line. There's the first half line. I'm going to play first quarter line at Bet Rivers. I think even if you're laying a point, like you mentioned, there's the first quarter lines are not going to be commensurate. You're not getting like +1 like you would in a vacuum. It's going to be like -1, but I would do it with the T-Wolves. So I'm going to play T-Wolves first quarter. I think that's where the edge. I think that's where the desperation of being down 0-2 is most pronounced. I think that's where the edge. I don't think the market's going to adjust enough. I like Minnesota at home in the first quarter, whatever it is, money line, -1, whatever it is. I think that's the angle I'm playing. Do you have any thoughts here on the side total or quarter lines?
I think I'm gonna join you on the quarter. And by the way, there are plenty of halves. I don't know if Bet Rivers has a number up yet. They certainly will by tonight or tomorrow morning. But there's plenty of plus a half for the first quarter right now. I'm looking at the market for the Timberwolves, and that's probably the way I would go because look, Ant-Man had a nice comeback game with 32 last night, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Jaden McDaniels actually gave him some really good scoring pop. He was over 11.5 on his prop, ended up with 22. And then it was kind of the sell spot on Randall because Randall has really been the guy that's been beasting for the Timberwolves, especially in that previous series against Golden State. So then what does he come out with? A clunker last night, 2 of 11 and 6 points. I think the starters know that they have to give them a little bit more. Like Mike Conley has to hit a couple threes early. They got to get Gobert, to get a putback dunk or something to get them going because the bench players did really rebound for the Timberwolves. I thought after that disastrous game number 1, Naz Reid didn't shoot the ball well, but he did give him 10 points, 8 rebounds. Alexander Walker shot much better from the 3. Dante DiVincenzo shot much better from the 3. So if you're going to take the Timberwolves, I actually think first quarter or even first quarter looks a little stronger to take that as an angle because what does concern me later in the game with the Wolves, they're playing 8 guys. They're not quite as shorthanded in terms of the minute allocation as the Knicks are, but they're only playing 8 guys here. And you've got a Thunder team that is kind of like what the Pacers are in the other series where they go seriously 10 deep. And they get contributions, and they did last night off the bench with Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso, and then Wiggins. Not much last night, but he certainly can contribute. So, yeah, I think Timberwolves. I think I'm going to follow you there and go plus a half first quarter for Saturday.
All right, I like it. We are aligned on that one. Let's talk some props. I want to start with Anthony Edwards. He did bounce back in game 2, albeit in a losing effort, but at 38 points. He also had 9 3-point attempts, just 1 of 9, still managed 38 points. How would you play his points prop of 27.5, overs -110, unders -121 at Bet Rivers?
Yeah, I think it's about right, Doug, to be honest with you. I think that they've accounted for the fact that he had a bounce back game. And plus, it's tough to play his over if you do anticipate a bounce back from somebody like a Julius Randle, who had such a stinker there in game number 2 after he's really been Mr. Consistency. And I think you do get the bounce back from Randle. And I'm seeing 17.5 right now, I believe, at Bet Rivers minus $1.13. Just checking here on the phone. And I think you do get a bounce back from Randall. And I think that's to your point and to our point of liking the first quarter. You got to have the starters play well, knowing that there's that sense of urgency, knowing that the Thunder maybe, in the first 12 minutes, they get that, we're already up 2-0. We know we're better than these guys. And you got a team that's grinding. That's like, oh, man, we got to do something. We got to show out at some point. So from a prop standpoint, I think Randall might be the guy to attack. And then perhaps Naz Reid too. Naz Reid has had a miserable shooting series from 3. He has not made one. He did not make one last night. So That would be one I think that I would look at from the 3-point perspective. You're already paying some heavy juice, so clearly the market is trying to buy low here and thinking, okay, now that he's back home, he's going to make some. So you got to pay like $1.75 on that for Nas Reed. So maybe go all if you don't want to pay the $1.75.
Okay, so you expect some bounce back. Any props you want to officially be on record with here in this game to 3?
Yeah, let's go Randall over 17 and a half.
Okay.
I think that this is a bounce back for him, and he knows that Ant Man he's come back and he's starting to score again and be that Ant Man that we know. So he knows he's got a support there. So I think Randall over 17 and a half points on the dip here.
All right. Yeah. So none for me. I'm looking. Actually, I am going to get involved. I'm gonna. So if we think Minnesota is going to be the desperate team, then we think Thunder are going to be a little bit more complacent, right? Like they're up 2-0, stuff like that. Chet Holmgren has not been rebounding in this series. I
Nope.
like the under 8.5 minus 109 for Holmgren. So I'm going to play Holmgren as the only other option, only other play on this game for me. Under 8.5 rebounds minus 109. I think I think he could be in foul trouble. I think this could be one of those games where it's just they don't have the bounce in their step. And remember, they're not only coming off 2 big wins, they're coming off a Game 7 win as well. And that's my concern with Minnesota in this series, that the bounce back spots Denver delivered, but they had the best player in the world in Jokic.
Hmm.
Minnesota does not. And that's why I think Minnesota early in the game and then sort of the effort stats will translate. But I'm a little uneasy thinking the Wolves are going to get back in the series. I hope they do because I have over 5.5 games, but this might be a wrap. So that's why I'm doing first quarter. But I think Holmgren is not going to be that aggressive, all things considered. So I'll do under 8.5 rebounds, minus 109. Wes is on Randall over 17.5 points. So I think that puts the bed our NBA talk. Any other comments we loose things we left out?
One more thing on your Holmgren, because I actually had a play on him that did end up winning last night, points and rebounds, and it was a sweat, because it got to the point where, it was 12 to 15, almost not quite in a blowout range, but close enough where it's like, okay, maybe we got this game under wraps. And it was a sweat to get him back in the game because he did not rebound at all. Now he got 22 points and 4 rebounds, so the points were most of that. But yeah, I thought he was going to rebound better, and that was a little bit of a sweat. So I don't disagree with you on your under.
Okay, good stuff. Now we go to the W. I'm 5-2 so far on plays here on betting weekly hardball. Sorry, fast break. And we've been talking a lot of the W, and we've been doing well with it. I know you had a prop the other night, and that cash. So well done with the Brittany Sykes over. We have a big card in the W tonight. So a lot of games, a lot of double-digit spreads, 3 of them, mind you. And then we have a sizable home favorite in a revenge angle. So a couple interesting handicaps, but I want to talk about tomorrow's marquee game first, Wes. I want to start with tomorrow. It's on CBS. Liberty visiting the Indiana Fever, who eked out a narrow win yesterday, got the job done, got the cover as well. It's another winner we gave out to. We beat the line movement. This number's come up from 1.5 to 2.5. I personally agree with the line move. I think it's a really bad spot for Indiana, and they may need they're a work in progress. I thought it was a gutsy win. I thought it was a nice, solid road win, and I think Atlanta's pretty good. So I give them credit, but they haven't looked as dominant as maybe I thought they would. I love the Liberty first quarter, first half, and game. How would you play this game tomorrow on CBS?
Yeah, I think first half is probably a good angle because I do expect that you're going to get a big crowd, by the way, in Indianapolis because it is Indy 500 weekend. So there's a lot of people. Now there's going to be a parade going on downtown during this game, the 500 Festival Parade. But I would expect a massive crowd with people in town wanting to get a look. Maybe their one chance to see Caitlin Clark and the Fever there at home in Indianapolis. But one thing I will say, Natasha Howard, nice bounce back game on Thursday night after I think a really bad game against the Dream, but on Tuesday when the Dream beat them in Gainbridge. But I wonder what's going to happen with the Fever rotations. Dewana Bonner didn't give him much offensively 2 games in a row. So is this a pattern? Is this a trend? Is this just a coincidence? I don't know, but I'm going to tell you, I think Sophie Cunningham is going to be closing a lot of games for the Fever. And by the way, she came back last night after an ankle injury, missed the first 2 games. So Fever is still kind of trying to figure out the rotations. I would expect a bounce back game for Caitlin after kind of a dud by her standards in Atlanta on Thursday night, where she barely got over double digits, and a Leah Boston bad game as well. Just didn't have much on Thursday night, but I'm kind of with you on the Liberty. Liberty absolutely took apart the Sky. Now the Sky may be really bad. Like they may be worse than I think anticipated. Just watching them play, it's like they don't know how to play at all. And I don't think the new coach, Tyler Marshall, he doesn't have the answers so far. Just, I know that I don't want to put too much in that one sequence where Angel Reese grabs like 4 or 5 rebounds and he's just trying to muscle it up there. It's like, hey, try to kick out for an open 3 or maybe try a shot fake, but didn't really do that. New York has been impressive. Natasha Cloud has been a big addition for them. Like they look like they're even better with that rotation being so strong, even though they lost Kayla Thornton to the Valkyries with the expansion. But I think Liberty first half probably the way to go, and then I could see the Fever coming back and really making this a game late.
I just think it's a really bad spot. Indiana's off 2 physical games with Atlanta, one at home, one on the road. It took a lot out of them. Like you said, Bonner hasn't been playing great. Howard's was good in one of them. I just think they're kind of figuring it out still. And that Liberty look really good. Now, who have they played? That's the question, right? The Sky stink. They did play the Aces. Aces made a run, things like that. I think the Liberty are really good. Obviously, they're defending champs. Okay, let's go to tonight's games. 3 double-digit spreads, like I mentioned. Some interesting angles. Home opener for Vegas. Valkyries off their first win in franchise history, and the revenge spot for the Storm. I love the Aces in the first half tonight. Now it's 8.5. It's climbing. But with the Las Vegas Aces under Becky Hammon, she'll get a big lead. And then the fourth quarter is like a punt of all punts. Like they'll put up some like 8 points in the fourth quarter, and the back door is going to be wide open if the game script goes like I think it will be. So I'm just going to play the Aces minus 8.5. This Mystics team, I wish they were coming off a win. I wish they didn't lose to the Valkyries and they were 3-0. Instead, they're 2-1. I just don't think they're very good. Shakira Austin's not there. Sykes is the only one who scares me, but Stephanie Dolson is a traffic cone on defense. They're really limited. The rookie is good, Sonia Citron, but for the most part, the Aces are loaded with not just Asia Wilson, but Jackie Young. Jewel Lloyd's playing within herself. I think Becky Hammond's going to get the best out of her. And then just all the pieces fit right now. And so I'll lay the 8.5 minus 122 in the first half. I think there's line value given how Las Vegas plays the fourth quarter typically. I'll lay it with the 8.5 in the first half.
Yeah, and that's what makes me lean to the 15 here, which you're now seeing for the most part. I think there's a couple 14.5s. It's 15 at Bet Rivers, but is that do the Aces kind of let the foot off the gas a little bit? Because I don't think we know yet with the Aces. We know that they're probably pretty good, just the talent on their roster. But game number 1, obviously, Jewel Lloyd, miserable in her debut, had a nice bounce back in game 2 against Connecticut. But starters didn't play much of the fourth quarter because they absolutely blew out Connecticut, who we expect is going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. Like you mentioned with Washington, Brittany Sykes is the big scorer. Citron's a good rookie. Kiki Arafin is solid. She'll have some growing pains, but this is a team. Austin, by the way, she has dealing with a concussion where she hit Tiffany Hayes, and Tiffany Hayes got knocked out of the game with an injury for the Valkyries. And then, of course, Aaliyah Edwards has not been playing. Georgia Omori out for the year, one of their draft picks. So Washington's really young. So this could get ugly, but it may get ugly early, and then you get Washington keep trying. I think they're going to be a try-hard team with a first-year coach and some young players. So would lean a little bit 15 here. I have not pulled the trigger on that, though.
Okay, what would you pull the trigger on then as we're winding down the show here?
Yeah, a couple props that I do like in some other games. I'm going to go Nafisa Collier under points. Yeah, the Lynx are playing Connecticut, and they're up to 16 and a half. What's that?
That's dangerous. She's so good, right?
I know. So I think 24 and a half. There's some 25 and a half out there. But my angle here is there could be a potential blowout of Connecticut. What we saw with the Aces the other night. Asia Wilson, who is about as high usage of a player you have in the WNBA, played 29 minutes and went under 22. She only had 22, which is very low for her based on how she can score. So You are kind of fading at the top here, but I think that that's a big number for fee. And I think other players are going to get involved. Connecticut's going to play that drop coverage. So that means you're going to see Courtney Williams maybe taking more threes. You're going to see Alana Smith step out and take more threes. They are still without McBride. But there, Fee can sometimes she'll be a distributor where she won't be like as heavy scorer as she usually is. And that could be it tonight. So Collier, even though it's a risk, under points. And then in the Sparks game against the Valkyries, this is the second time they played, by the way, in this first week of the season. Kelsey Plum in her Sparks debut did get 37 against Golden State. So they're going to want to try to not let her get 37 this time to try to take her away. And I think that benefits Derica Hamby, who has gotten off to a slow start, I think, offensively, but over 15.5 points, minus $1.30. The Valkyries, by the way, allow the most points in the paint in the league. So I think that's going to benefit her. Rakia Jackson, by the way, is still out for the Sparks. So I think you might get a big offensive night from Hamby, who's been a little bit off to a slow start from a scoring standpoint.
Okay, so over 16.5 points at minus 117 at Bet Rivers. I can see that. She was a machine last year. Obviously, they're deeper this year, stronger supporting cast. And that, of course, includes Kelsey Plum, who they added in exchange for the draft pick, I believe. And Cameron Brink's not back yet. So I can see that. So it's either over 15.5 minus 143 or over 16.5 minus 117. What do you prefer, Wes?
I usually lay the juice, to be honest with you. I don't like the bumps. On the unders, I'm a little bit more willing to do that, but not so much on the overs.
Okay, so over 15.5 it is. Minus 143. So we got you down for 2-player props. You obviously hit your one the other night. And we always want to have you get involved in the conversation with us. And that's exactly what Steve from Lynn did here on the YouTube channel comment section. Hey, guys, watching Serie A. Just wanted to drop in and thank you for the leans last night and Gobert under rebounds plus assists and the under, which formed my parlay for 10 units. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Oh, well, you're very welcome, Steve from Lynn. We appreciate it.
What was the number, by the way, that you played on that Gobert?
It was 15.5, and it got there by the hook.
Okay, rebounds, assists, right?
Sorry. So I did points plus rebounds.
Okay.
So I think he may have mistyped. So that was my official play yesterday on the show.
And
Albert had a great one.
Yeah, I did that in game one where it was 18.5, and we were talking about it on this program earlier in the week. This is not a big Gobert series. It's just not, and especially if they get behind. It's not a big Gobert.
And then you're going to see minutes yesterday. So
yeah. So good call on you, even with the tax being paid there.
Yeah, just a reminder to tear into the action with Bet Rivers prop packs. Place the same game parlay of at least $10 on any NBA game to receive a prop pack, which can win you boosts and bonus credits. If the target score on your prop pack card hits during the game, you win the prize indicated on the card. Just head to the Bet Rivers app now to tear into the action. And there's plenty of action this weekend on the pitch. Betting Weekly has you covered. The EPL show with Dan, Nigel, and Jack. There's predictions on the final match day in the Premier League. Nigel, by the way, hit Tottenham's Brennan Johnson plus 850 to score the first goal during the betcast, the Europa League final betcast earlier this week. He's on a tear. Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, there's another betcast for the EPL's final match day. That's the Premier League betcast with Nigel, Jack, and Steve at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. So a lot of good stuff. And like you said, plus 850. Nice hit there. All right. We covered a lot of hoops, but there's a lot of hoops going on. Have a great weekend. All those watching in the States, Memorial Day weekend. We will be back here on Monday. Wes is in the house as well. So we'll break down much more basketball. And, of course, the playoff basketball and the W season is rolling along just fine. So thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to Wes Reynolds. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes who makes it all work and be sweet, sweet music. I'm Doug Kezirian. Have a great holiday weekend. We will see you back here on Monday.